Hello everyone, welcome to a huge edition of Hong Kong Horse Racing. I'm Jason Richardson. I've got the great pleasure of sitting alongside Clint Hutchison, hutchyshonkers.com, and the Hall of Fame jockey in RS, Shane Dye, for another big episode, our final episode of the season. We've had so much fun and we've got an outstanding special guest. The one and only Caspar Fownes will be joining us later on in the show. Hutch, I'll start with you. Hello, my friend.
Hello. And talking of Caspar Fownes, I've got the Fownes Racing Stables attire on, so I'd like to not be biased on the show, but we will be today. We will be today.
I would have thought so.
Is that Caspar?
Is it fair to say, is that shrunk in the wash or?
It's just well filled out, isn't it? Apparently this is a large in Hong Kong and it's not quite large enough. So I'm glad that the shot is from here up. But no, final Group 1 of the season as well, which is great, Richo. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting edition, I suppose, this year with, Caspar's got 3 runners in the race as well. And we don't get a lot of races over the 2,400 metres, but looking forward to the show, looking forward to Cass, and we've got a bit to get through the meeting. It's a really good meeting at Sha Tin on the weekend.
So the Charters and Chater Cup is what we're talking about for the Group 1, with 3 out of the 10 for Caspar Fownes, who'll give us the insight there. See in October might be the best of his. Shane Dye, wonderful to see you, RS. How are you?
Nice to see you. It must be getting cold. We're all rugged up today, mate. We've got jumpers and jackets on, I see, which is the first time, I think.
I think you're dead right. A little bit different for you. You're up in Queensland enjoying the beautiful country. Did you make a profit last week?
Sunday I won. Had a good win Sunday, and Wednesday night I lost.
Yeah, it was the other way around for us, wasn't it? Wet conditions on the weekend, which made it, I think, pretty tough through the card. And we saw a lot of jockeys coursing wider on the track. I thought Blake Shin picked up the pattern pretty early, and the rest followed in course later in the races. It's something we haven't seen in Hong Kong for a while. A lot of jockeys sort of coming wide out on the course and trying to get that better ground, and it was clearly the spot to be. But tough day as a consequence with that rain. But Wednesday, basically flat. I think we made 1 unit, a couple of results. Disappointed. Best Campione got beat, but on face value, I didn't see too many excuses for him. Shane, what did you think? I thought he was pretty disappointing. He stepped a bit slow, but
I haven't gone back over the run, but he didn't jump well. And once he couldn't lead, I thought he would struggle. As soon as he wasn't there, it's different racing pattern. And it was a strong race. So I'd have to go back over it, and I haven't done that race yet.
Okay, well, we're loading into the gates and we are ready for the barriers to burst open as we'll touch on some of the hot topics. And we burst out of the barriers with you, Hutch, because Moreira away, I think the Australian fans were barracking for Zach Purton for a big push. But, gee, I tell you what, Sunday, a lot of jocks had their chance.
Yeah, we had multiple winners. And I think the conditions played a big part in that. Wouldn't say Zach had the sort of strongest book of rides necessarily, but look, it was nice to get a couple of winners home. Isn't Lyle Hewitson flying with Douglas Watt? We'll touch on that in a little while. This was one of the better results for us. They went forward with him. I didn't sort of envisage they go forward necessarily. And Mission Smart, of course, out
double
wide.
For Blake Shin.
Double for Blake. He's going well. He continues to ride winners. And yeah, we just saw one wide out in the course there prevail. But we just don't get that many wet tracks, as Shane said, I think was our last episode or the time before. And when you do get it on the day, it makes it pretty tough. But I thought there were some, clever rides there on the day, and Blake was probably the one that was willing to chance his arm early, and he certainly did a good job.
Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated from afar, Shane, that Blake's coming home, because he's now finally got into that groove in Hong Kong.
He's riding very well, as I've been stating for a while. He struggled when he got there. He didn't ride well. But a lot of good jockeys don't ride well when they get to Hong Kong. They don't understand the place. But he's finally picked it up and he's leaving, which to me is the worst time. But you can't comment on mental health. But the only thing I will say is I know they've all been locked up there. It's about to change, and it is changing. Everyone's can go to restaurants again now. You got 5 weeks, 6 weeks holiday where you can go anywhere in the world on holiday. So he should be refreshed. So I don't know. I don't think it's too late for him to change his mind. I'm sure the Jockey Club would want him back, and they should want him back. But it's up to him. But, mental health, you can't argue against that.
No, that's right. Well, you can't. You've always got to walk in the other person's shoes, and that's
Yes,
the reality.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
correct.
If that's the reality of what he's telling us, we've got to go with it. RS, what about, and Hutch just touched on it, Douglas White and Lyle Hutchison are simply flying at the moment.
They're flying. They're racing well. I got a shock, Valiant Elegant winning when he had to take a sit because this is him here. He had to take a sit in behind, and he gave him a beautiful ride because he's normally a leader in charges, and he can lead by 5 or 6 lengths and gets weak and is weak at the 100 and hangs on and win. But today, or not today, on Wednesday night, he took a sit and he quickened, which you don't see him do. And they're just flying together, these two.
They are. I thought it was a good ride. It was one of our results on Wednesday, Valiant Elegance. I mean, right for the wrong reasons. I thought, up in grade with the lightweight, he might go forward and take some running down, but Lyle stepped just okay, but then he rode a good race thereafter, which is the key. We hear Shane often say, if you don't probably begin as well, the worst thing you can do is sort of overreact and press on. But just to highlight some of these stats, I mean, this shows how well they're going. Douglas White for the season, 431, and he's had 37 winners. So it's a decent strike rate. But have a look at that, the last 50. 11 wins, striking at 22%, 60 basically 7% on turnover. And Lyle's obviously been part of that. So through the season, prior to these last 50, he'd had 7 winners and wasn't striking at a great percentage. But now he's up to around 8% overall and 22%. So that is a stable and a combination worth following. I think Douglas White, though, one thing is interesting. It was very similar to what happened last year. Jerry Chow was, I think, riding a lot of winners for him. Douglas seemed to hit form towards the end of the season. And we see Shane stables, everywhere in the world go in and out of form for whatever reason. But Douglas ended last campaign in a similar fashion, really, firing on all cylinders. And it looks like it's been the same again this season.
And they continue to have a pattern, trainers. But what I noticed more than anything there, and it's not knocking Dougie because he's done a fantastic job, is that Lyle is like so many jockeys. They struggle, and then they just go boom out of nowhere, a bit like Blake this year. He's just gone boom. And I see it all the time. It's quite incredible. And he's riding a lot better. He's riding horses forward, which helps because most races, as you know, are won by forward-ridden horses. And he's just riding well.
What tempers it a little bit? I mean, there have been, I think, with half of those wins, a couple of really biased tracks and helped them. But that ride on Valiant Elegance was good to highlight because it shows his sort of that confidence and that maturity. And it was slightly different to, probably 4 or 5 of those wins, which got him his confidence. The pattern was in his favour, but he's up and about. He's rating them well in front, and he's clearly going well.
Shane, can we go back to race 3 at Sha Tin on Sunday with the Rock winning and then the dead heat with no photo finish available, no nose available for one of the horses, so therefore that to declare a dead heat between California 10 and Running Glory? What did you think?
Well, looking at this here, you'd swear the outside horses got second, I would think. But if you can't see the head, and I've never seen this before in Hong Kong, you can always see the photos of all the horses, but for some unknown reason, you just couldn't see it. So the stewards had no option. What do you do, But on the TV shot, I thought the outside one ran second, but I've got no complaints because a photo's a photo, and if you can't see the horse inside, how can you judge it?
Yeah, I agree with what Shane said. And we got a statement. Hutchison's got a statement from Kim Kelly, and this is where they were comfortable with the decision to declare a dead heat in the absence of any photos which definitively identified the inside horse's nose. Goes on to say it's very rare for a nose not to be able to be identified. The club's always looking at new technology in every aspect of its business to be at the forefront. And I think, what do you do? Like the third horse, because you can't see it, if you're an owner or connection, you say, well, and they do put up what it looked like on the shutter cam, put the outside horses second, and the connections of the third horse say, well, show me a margin, and you can't. Well, you can't. So I think you have to go with that scenario, and it's a very rare situation where you're blocked from that back on that, basically the reverse angle back on the inside. It was just blocked. So I think they had no option really to do that.
I've never heard it, Clint. I've never seen it in Hong Kong once in 20 years since I've been there. Never heard it, never seen it.
Because normally you would get that reverse angle, and Hutchie's touched on a really good point. If we look at the photo again, See, the reverse angle would be blocked by the other horse,
Yes.
who's actually inside it. So that's where it's so hard to.
So you've only got that one angle, and the one angle you can't see. Here you can see it. You can see the ears basically of the horse in the middle, but unfortunately, where California,
your gut feel though is, of course, when you see the backsides. We're going to go back to a Melbourne Cup where Natski's backside was inside Empire Rose. The jockey was in front of Empire Rose's jockey, yet unfortunately, because she was so big, her nose.
That's the other thing. I mean, your gut feel is the outside horse has got there, but we can't go on gut feel. And the other thing is you do see finishes where, they're out of sync, and we see it all the time. Horses that there's just that small margin, they got the head down and they get there by a small margin, even though the jockey, the horse, everything's behind. Yeah. So it does happen. So like I said, I think in the absence of that reverse angle, what options are you left with?
They have no other option. Shane, I've got one of the great privileges of sitting and watching a lot of races with Hutch and watching nose up, nose down. And sometimes when we're watching the replay, your face is, how has that gone up? Have a look at that. When you want at least.
It happens to all punters, doesn't it? And it never seems to go your way, funnily enough.
Isn't that amazing? We've never once gone, gee, we got lucky there, didn't we?
Yeah.
Here's one for you, Richo. You mentioned Empire Rose.
Yes.
And how good she was. Who rode her in her very first trial?
Shane Dye?
Correct. In New Zealand as a 16-year-old apprentice.
Yeah. And
what did you think?
Oh, she was huge. She was in Laurie Laxton. I used to ride all Laurie's horses, and I trialled her a couple of times. But then, of course, I moved to Australia. So she went on to be a superstar, as you know.
Yeah, and when they first tried to get the barriers behind, she was just far too big to bring out the extension to be able to keep her into the barriers.
I'm disappointed Shane didn't get back on. Did you get back on her when she went over to her?
It actually cost me a Melbourne Cup, Clint. One of my first rides in the Melbourne Cup was 1986, I think it was, and it was on a horse called Sea Legend.
Oh, yes.
And she galloped on me the first time down the straight at the winning post and just stripped my whole tendon behind and everything. And he was in a box for 18 months after the race, and I got beat head. He couldn't hold her, and she was pulling. Tony Allen rode her, and I felt my horse go down at the winning post, and I didn't know what had happened, but I thought, something's got him from behind, and sure enough, it was her. Was
that 86? So,
I think so.
And then she came back. I mean, she was one of the rare horses. We've gone off on a tangent as we do. She's one of the rare horses who have a couple of cracks at a cup before actually finally winning it.
I think she had 3, Richo.
Yeah.
I think she ran 3 straight Melbourne Cups. Then she won one, then she got beaten one, and that one.
Yeah, she got it right when it counted most. The mighty Empire Rose. We move from Empire Rose to the genius that is RS Dye.
They sweep for home now. Veandercross has come very wide. Veandercross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
RS Dye's time to shine. Genius or slaughter. Octagonal or, in brackets, maybe Veandercross. He'll never acknowledge that. RS, take it away. Who was the genius, or is there any slaughters?
Harry Bentley was a very good ride on Sparky Star last week. Gate 13 on the outside. No point putting the head on because it's just raining and you can't see it. He relaxed him out of the gates, and we all know, we've tipped him here on the show, he gets back and runs on. Now, after about 300 metres, I'm looking at the race and I go, that's the winner, because they were coming down the outside, of course, and he just had a beautiful run. He didn't panic at any stage. He didn't try and circle them, and I know he come out on the turn, but he actually cut the corner, and he had this horse travelling well underneath him the whole way. Correct, Clint?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a nice ride from him. I mean, in the race, I think we were on Fun and Glory, and I thought I was happy where he was too. He was in a 3-wide trail. He's in the purple colours in that second tier from the back. He started short enough in the market. Zach just getting off heels there and starts to get into the race.
Sorry, Clint. I've got to end up. See coming here. He doesn't panic, and he's got him relaxed, and he just comes to the outside gradually. Now, on the wet track, the worst thing you can do is shift in or out or get your horse to change stride quickly, because it's very hard to pick up on wet tracks. It's totally different to a good track. And he just kept that horse so smooth and balanced the whole way. And, of course, he's hit the line. Now, this horse has found a lot of trouble in races, and it probably should have won a race by now. But that was a trouble-free run because of the ride. And I thought, watching the race the first time I watched it, it was an outstanding ride.
Yeah, that was a brilliant ride. And now I've actually worked out, Hutch, finally the recipe for Genius or Slaughter. If Shane's backed it and the horse wins, you're a chance of getting the Genius. Is that right, Shane?
No, I didn't back it. I was going to back Fun and Glory, actually, but I didn't back Fun and Glory. I actually didn't have a bet there. I think I only played the 6 up on the day. I didn't have a bet in the race. No, I didn't like it once it rained. I knew they were going to be wide. And with 133 pound and a really wide run with Fun and Glory, I just wanted to stay out. So, no, I'm not like that, Richo. I'd say how it was. Just because I backed one means nothing.
I know, I'm only playing along with you. But you gave a little asterisk on this show last week. That's the reason why I brought it up. I can't believe you didn't back it.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's no doubt there. Now, what about...
Are you getting into his area? Well, this is his lane.
Well, Shane hasn't got a slaughter this week. So, look, it's not a slaughter because it was a good ride to a point, but... Let's have a look at some vision from Blake Shinjo.
We need to call. We're going to call this the what the?
A great spot on win-win fighter from an awkward barrier mid-race, and he's in the blue colour centre screen.
Yeah,
and it was actually a nice result for our subs this week. Now here he's only got to keep a straight course. He goes on to win. He wins easy, but he shifts in. There was no real need to shift in there, and he's obviously caused interference to Happy Daily. He's come away to win by 2 lengths. It's cost him $50,000 fine, Hong Kong dollars that is, and he's got a 3-meeting suspension. And Sean, I thought Blake, he'd ridden the horse so well, he probably just keeps a straight line in the straight, and happy days, he would have won anyway. I thought it was more than unfortunate that he did what he did. Yeah, it was a what?
Yeah, but that's not a bad ride. Now I'll explain with Blake, right? Blake, when he does that a lot in races, and he got suspended when he should have got suspended for sure on Skyfield and International Day, did the same thing. What Blake does is when he's riding them out now in the right hand, I don't think he actually has the rein tight enough and pull them out enough in his left hand. So 9 out of 10 horses always has a tendency when they're running on to run in with them. And he can correct that very quickly, but he hasn't yet this season, and it's something he has to work on because there's no need for it, and the horse was always going to win. It didn't affect Happy Daily's chances. He had no hope of beating him, and you're going to get suspended and fined. It's just a small correction.
Yeah, as far as the trade is concerned of jockeyship, I'll leave that to RSI. But just to what they're in terms of even hands and heels, he might have still been able to get up anyway. But it's unfortunate for Blake because all this momentum, you lose it as well. You got a 3-day suspension, a big fine, and you look back and think, well, it's what a shame.
And don't talk yourself down though, Hutch, because considering between the 3 of us, we're in the Australian Racing and New Zealand Racing Hall of Fame.
It's good to be on the board.
Yeah.
Clint, you have a look at how many races or rides that happens with Blake. It's just one of his traits in a race. They lay in a straight when he goes for them.
We've still got to jump into the classroom for the Hong Kong Racing School and a very special star power, the one and only Caspar Fownes, still to come. For our Hong Kong Racing School, it's going to be more of an administration or a reminder, if you like, for this week's edition, because though we're bringing our season to an end, we've still got, what have we got? We're up to 73 of 88 meetings.
Yep, so we're at the tail end, and but the racing calendar and, of course, what's coming up is important. And the World Pool has still got a few meetings with the World Pool, and you can see on coming up shortly, we've got, I think... Royal Ascot will definitely be part of the coverage. And the final of the season is on the 16th of July, just for those noting.
So Oaks and Derby Day.
We've got, a lot of races from England with the Whirlpool. So we've got Oaks Day, Derby Day, of course, both of those at Epsom. And then we go to a meeting I know you love. I think you're going to be there this year, aren't you? You're going to be there for Ascot this year?
No, I'm going to miss the Royal meeting, but I'll be back at Ascot for the King George, which will be fantastic. Maybe even Baid being there.
So, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? But just that's a highlight of all the meetings coming up. And, we might throw something out on our site. Just might have something there. We'll have to wait and see when we get closer to those meetings if we can find something or have a chat to a couple of people in the UK.
Of course, it is worth reminding that hutchieshonkers.com will be still charging on. Let's add a little bit of class and star power to our podcast, the one and only Caspar Fownes. Gives us great pleasure to have a very special guest, four-time champion trainer in Hong Kong, including last season. We had a brilliant season. Is the one and only Caspar Fownes. Caspar, thank you so much for taking our call and welcome to the family. In fact, you're already in it, aren't you?
Absolutely, mate. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you guys finally.
I think there are days, though, Richo, where he wish he wasn't part of the family. I can assure you of that over the years. It's been great to have Cass on board. Cass, congratulations on last season, and we're going to have a chat about all things today, but how you must be happy with this season following, all the success last term, and you're starting to really hit your straps late.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. Just building a nice string, and I think, we're going to have a pretty good team for next season.
There's so many things I'd like to talk to you about. Can I start with something a little lighthearted? Where does this dancing skills come from? Because Hutchi's trying to follow you on many of our shows, but he's got no rhythm like you have.
Well, mate, it started in the bedroom, but the missus just keeps pulling the bloody yellow card followed by the red, and I just got to try and do my moves out in the open for people to enjoy. So it's pretty nasty.
Richo, but he speaks many languages. Indian's his best language.
He does. There he is. There's the moves. I think that was
That's
the day.
Embarrassing.
Cass, that was the day you had. What did you have? 6 that day at Happy Valley?
That's right, buddy. Yeah, we had 6 that day. It was a memorable day, 2010. So massive.
He's going half pace there as well.
Look at, I mean, we've even...
Actually, Cass, you actually look skinner and thinner now than then.
Listen,
You've
Shagger,
lost
you
weight.
behave yourself, mate.
You lost
Hey?
weight. That's a compliment.
Mate, wait.
Yeah, you've
Thank
lost
you. Yeah,
weight since
it was a long time ago. I was lighter then. I mean, now we're all. It's embarrassing. It's we need to get our act together, actually. But you're looking good, Shane. You're looking good, brother.
Thank you. So are you, Cass.
Right, he's always looking good, Shane. Hey, Cass, can we just quickly go back? Because some of our audience might not know your background. Where did this love for racing, where did it all start for you?
Look, I was born in India, actually, and I grew up there for 13 years. My dad was the top trainer there, and then he got the job to Hong Kong. And once we were here, I followed him from a young age. From the age of 13, I'd go down the stables all the time. And, I was very close with my old man and just loved hanging around with horses. Had a passion for them from a very young age. And it's just built from there.
Cass literally has been going to the stables since he was 13, and he quite incredible. I remember when
you two would have grown up together.
Yes, so I was obviously I'm a little bit younger, might not look it than Cass, but he's been there a long time. And Cass, you put in the years. You were assistant to your father. Must have been
18 years.
18.
Yeah.
I was going to say about 20 years, and
18 to 20 years. That's right, buddy. Yeah. Yeah.
And Richo, you won't realise this, but Cass actually survived a kidnapping attack. Correct, Cass?
Yes, absolutely, mate. I did. Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a couple of guys crash into the back of my car and wanted to. I came out to see what was going on. They tried to grab me. Guy pulled a big knife, and I fought for my life. I still got stabbed a few times. Very lucky actually, because one of the injuries went straight through my leg and was about 2 mm off my femoral artery in my thigh. So I could have bled out, but I had over 60 stitches. So I was lucky. It was a great result in the end.
What age were you, Cass?
I was 21, mate. I was young. Yeah,
it was a frightening day. I remember coming back, Richo. I came back to where we all lived on the course that day, and the car was full of blood, and everyone was yelling and screaming. And Cass managed to sort of get away from them, jump onto an oncoming car, dragged up the road, and got away. And yeah, it was frightening. Saw him not long after in the hospital as well. We'd got back not long after that, and he was incredibly lucky. It just missed. I mean, might not have been here, but knew you were lucky from that day on, Cash. You got the short head.
Thank you, buddy.
Needed,
and I've been lucky ever since I married your sister as well. So it's been magic.
She must be in the room.
Thank God she's not. She's hiding somewhere.
No, this lockdown would have been great for you. She couldn't have gone shopping. Must have saved you a fortune.
Absolute fortune. Oh, Shago, you know me too well, mate. This is scary stuff.
Must have been nightmares when they opened the place up again and everyone could go out.
Oh no, she's really good. She's seriously, she's a star.
Caspar, tell us when you first saw RS die and what the impact he had when he arrived on Hong Kong racing.
Mate, the first time I saw RS was close to 1990 when I was very good friends with Lance O'Sullivan, and Lance was very close with Shane, and he introduced me to Shane, and I actually stayed with him at his house in Parramatta. And I stayed with him for a couple of weeks, and it was absolutely unreal. We had the best time ever. We bonded straight away, and to tell you the truth, we've been great mates ever since then. And when you get out with Shagger at that time, he was absolute legend. And we had so much fun. Whatever clubs we went to, he was just the man. There were these queues that would go around half of King's Cross, and we'd be straight up the front of the line. Let's go, baby.
Nothing's changed.
I'll tell you one story with Cass when I first met. My wife had been in hospital for 7 months having our first child, Nicholas, and he was born and she nearly died. Very lucky to survive, very thankful. Both of them did. And that was on the Friday night. So I was there all night, the Friday night in hospital. And Cass and Lance come over to see me and make sure everything was all right. So they took me out on the Tuesday. I didn't ride on the Saturday, but I had races on the Wednesday. And they said, Colin, we're going out Tuesday night. So we went out Tuesday night. And it was a late one. And I didn't really drink, but they got me a few drinks that night. So at about 2:00 in the morning in King's Cross, I said, let's go and have chocolate cake or ice cream at this place I knew. So I go in there and we order all this big chocolate cakes with whipped cream, ice cream. It's about 2:30 in the morning. And I go to the toilet and Cass is sitting next to me. And I come back. And as I go to sit down, he puts the cake on my seat. Remember, Cass?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I sit on it, and it just went everywhere. So I run straight into the kitchen of this restaurant, and I said, give me a bottle. I want the whipped cream and milk or whatever. Next minute, I'm chasing Cass around King's Cross, right? And he's run behind this car. So I've run behind the car and you're on the road, but of course I've slipped over. Remember that? And my whole arm is scraped. Yeah. Right? And this is now 3:00 in the morning. And I get home and get up in the morning and I say, I'm going to the races. I wake Cass up and Cass says, you can't go to the races. You're kidding. I said, Cass, I'll ride 3 winners. Silk and Lad. I said, this will win the second for sure and it's 7-1. And he said, you can't ride. I said, I'm as good as God, mate. It makes no difference. Went to the races. How many winners did I ride?
You rode about 4, I'd say. But what was funny about that story, you did get me back in the morning when I was asleep with a bucket of water.
Oh, yeah, that's even funnier. So I had bunks, right? So I had bunks. Yeah. So I said to Lance was awake and Caspar was asleep under the bottom bunk. And I said, Lance, watch this. So I got a jug of water and he's there snoring. I got the jug of water and I went, all on through his mouth and face. And he jumped up and his head hit the top of the he was screaming, chasing me around my house.
Oh, that is so funny.
For the day.
And he would have caught you, Shane, because Cass, is it true that you're an outstanding athlete? In fact, you fancied your sprinting skills against David Hayes one day?
Yeah, that's true. It was David Hayes and Biancone. It was a true story at Sha Tin down the back straight. And after we went about 30 meters, old fat Bianco and pulled a hamstring. And the press were around, and just to save embarrassment, he couldn't bend down to get under the rail. So he stood there for about 45 minutes until everyone left.
It was an amazing day. The talk and chat and the trainers stand between, you had obviously David, he's got a bit of confidence. Cass, who fancied himself as a sprinter, and then Bianco actually outshone them both as far as the talking game was concerned. And well, I was walking down and watching it myself, and I thought this will be interesting because Bianco, and let's be honest, he wasn't exactly an athlete, 5'7" and probably weighed about 95 kilos, and most of it was in the midriff. And I don't reckon it was 30 meters. I reckon it was 3 strides and pop. Then went the hamstring. And I think Cass started laughing after about 30 meters, and then Hazy pulled away to win it. Probably hasn't stopped reminding Cass since, but it was a funny day.
Oh, surely you didn't let D.A. Hayes, who is a failed sprinter, who's just playing in Buddy Sandcastles as an athlete, being a jumper, you didn't let him beat you.
I just know the character of a man, and I like, my dad always said, you got to be nice to people, son. So I just said, let him have his glory.
Actually, he made it when he announced that he was coming back to Hong Kong. You said, "Hey, bring it on." He's 2 behind you in the premiership at the moment. Has there been a little bit of argy-bargy between the two of you?
Yeah. He was. I think he was 20 in front, and I said I'm going to get him and give him a windburn. So let's see. But yeah, there's always a bit of mutual banter between us. He's a good, fun guy to be around. He's positive energy all the time.
Who's your favourite all-time horse?
Sorry,
who's your favourite all-time horse that you've ever trained?
It's probably going to be Lucky 9. I've been blessed to have a few really good ones, but he's the one that we travelled everywhere with.
He did. He was well travelled, Cass. I mean, he was so tough and consistent. Of course, we're seeing him win here the Hong Kong Sprint. Of course, Brett got along with him really well, but he came down. Well, you would have said him, Richo. In was it the Moir or the
William? Was it the William
the
Manikato at the Valley?
He got beat in the nose.
Yeah.
He actually should have won the international sprint, I think, as a 3-year-old. He missed the start. I think we backed him at 25 that day, didn't we, Cass? And if he jumps international sprint, he would have won for sure. Would have won.
Yeah, Mosse was on him. Actually in Japan, he was so unlucky. It's one of the first times a few times in racing I've been gutted after a race. He missed the start, and his last 800 it was scary what he ran, and he got beat a length and a half. But if he had jumped that day, he would have won easy.
And Cass, you've had he's one that you travel with, but it's no trainer in Hong Kong, I wouldn't imagine, has had the success that you have with traveling with horses. What's been the key with traveling with them and getting them to perform?
Oh, mate, it's like anything. I mean, you got to just make sure that they've got the right attitude. They eat well, and not much phases them. And it's like us. When we go away, we tend to be enjoying ourselves. And the horses, every time we take them out of Hong Kong, once they're in a different environment after 2-3 days, they're eating well, they're drinking well, and they're just taking the new surroundings in extremely well. And they just, as long as they've got the ability, which it's proven that Hong Kong horses can be competitive overseas, you're gonna get certainly to have a chance to be competitive.
He's being a bit modest because his record is great. I mean, there is an art to it as well. And
now with COVID, hopefully we can start to see a few more of Hong Kong horses getting back travelling and showcasing their brilliance.
Yeah, very much so. And they've got a few good ones.
I'd love to come to Australia. I mean, the stake money is huge there. And obviously with Hutchi being there and Shane and you guys, it'd be nice to come and bring a couple of nice horses. So hopefully that'll happen within the next sort of 12 to 18 months.
We won't be having any ice cream.
Trouble we've got in Hong Kong at present, Richo, is we can't buy the good horses. They're just too expensive and people don't want to sell them. 10 years ago, it was easy to buy the good horses from Australia, but there's so much prize money now. It's just so hard to buy the promising horses. So Hong Kong isn't getting as many really good Australian horses as they used to.
And that might be like a reason as well why in Hong Kong the last couple of real good ones like the Romantic Warriors, Golden 60s have actually started their career there and gone all the way through, and California Spangle for that matter. It's not easy to get them in.
Would you agree with that, Cass?
Oh, that's 100%. It's just looking like our future is buying either good trialed horses or preparing horses that you buy from the yearling sales or breeze up sales and hope that you hit a star amongst them because, in the old days, we could spend 2 million, 2.5 million Aussie, but now that's seriously not getting you what you want. They're offering you horses for 800 or a million, and they're not even worth 300,000, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Can you explain to our audience, especially our Australian audience, you were the champion trainer last season. This season, you've got a developing string. So you expect after you win a championship to go back a notch and then reassess?
Yes and no. It's just like the horses I've had in this time are ones that I can see they've got the potential for the future. So you've got to nurture them rather than squeeze them and try and get a result where, things could go wrong with the horse and stuff. So you try and prepare them in a way that, hopefully they'll have 3-4 races and show you something. And then being a handicap system, they drop in the ratings, maybe that sort of 6 to 8 points. And then next season, what we missed this year, we can double down and get that sort of 3 wins,
The biggest thing, Richo, though, there in Hong Kong, and Cass will explain this, is that horse can reach his mark and it can't go any further and you want to get rid of it. But that owner's been good to you, and he's also got a permit for the following year where he can replace and buy another horse. So you've got to keep that horse because you want to keep that permit of that owner for next year or the year after, correct, Cass?
That's 100% right. And it's like anything. I mean, if your horse is in your stable, there's no benefit. It does get no handicap relief. It's got to continue to race to drop in the ratings, or certainly to know where its mark is to be competitive. And sometimes in Hong Kong, the racing is so tough that even a rating of 5 or 6 point drop can bring you in and give you your chance to get that win.
Yeah, it's a really valid point. No one's played the system better than Cass over the years, and I'm sure he'll be. He's generally in the top 5 every year anyway. I know you look at your stats, Cass, from time to time, and I would imagine without me having gone back through, it'd be pretty rare that you would have been out of that. And I'm sure next year you'll be right up there again.
Yeah, I think so, mate. Hopefully we'll have a good season again. And like anything now, I'm getting a bit older. I want to try and get some better quality horses in the camp and try to also travel. So hopefully that will come.
Well, you're looking fresh. So you got 10 runners on Sunday. 3 of them are in the Champions and Chater Cup. Is Seen October the best of yours?
Long term, absolutely. He's definitely the best. At this stage, his rating isn't there. But again, his true rating, we don't know what his true rating is just yet. We're expecting a little bit of rain on Sunday. If that happens, that will play into our hands even further. But this is a very good horse, and he's sort of at this distance. I think he's going to be very competitive, even though he's out of the handicap here at set weights.
Yeah, I think I looked at his preparation. Though I'm gonna have him marked favourite, Caspar, but I know they went very slow in this race. But he sprinted well. He let down nicely in the conditions. And I looked at, when you look at the overall season and I go through the race, he's actually had a lovely preparation for this race over his optimum distance. I mean, what is it? He 7th start of the season. You had a nice little campaign with him early on, gave him a freshen towards the Derby. He was good in the Derby, but he was very good there. And we know this is his right distance range. How's he come out of that last run? Because it shouldn't have been a hard run for him. They didn't go that quick.
Really good, and his work on Tuesday was seriously outstanding. And funny, I worked my staying horse with my sprinter together with Skyfield, and his work, if you can watch it on video, was really, really good. The last part, he was strong through the line, and he wouldn't have blown a candle out. He's absolutely in tip-top shape.
The good thing about this race, Cass, which wasn't suited last time to him, is the pace. It's a field of 10, and you got 4 leaders, and they're going to go along. And that's really going to help him. And you know what I think of him? I just think he's a dead set stayer who wants 2 miles and he'll go all day, won't stop. And if it's a bit wet and they're going along over 2,400, it's just going to play into his hands ideally. Clint, there's no risk he'll start favourite. He'll be favourite for sure.
Yeah, I think he will be. I think Panfield might be the one to beat. But I know you think he's very down. He's looked that way, Shane, but he actually, in a slow run race, he sprinted well there last start. I mean, his closing 200 was one of the best of the entire day. So I'm not completely surprised what Cass said there about him working well. I think that he does have a little more turn of foot than what we may have thought. But he's been in a few races leading into that where the pace had been a little bit stronger, albeit over shorter distance, and it might have sort of dulled his finish somewhat. Or maybe perhaps he's just getting his toe in that little bit. Cass maybe really revelled in that. So that could be another factor.
No, yeah, you could be right there, mate. But look, he handles a firm track. I think it wouldn't matter what track he's on. He's in tip-top shape. You respect a few horses in the race for sure. He's got a good gait. In my mind, I probably see him sitting one out, one back, but Shane's probably got him another spot further back than that. And I think, he can just follow the speed and he just maintain a good sectional throughout the last part and be strong at the end.
I could see him over 1.5 miles in a Group 1 at Caulfield or over 2 miles in a Group 1 at Flemington, and I reckon he'd hold his own.
I reckon the Ascot Cup, 4,000 metres. In England.
Thank you, Shane.
Take him over there. The Ass, you want to travel a horse? Take him for 4,000 metres. He'll just keep going. He won't stop.
That's not going to happen, brother.
You've got Columbus County and also Zabrowski in the race?
Columbus County, again, look, he was unlucky in this race last year. He spread a plate and had it stuck in his foot for about 200 meters and got beat sort of a half a length. So he would have won for sure if that didn't happen. Look, he's in great nick. I think he runs a big race. Zabrowski, we'll ride him a little bit conservative this time. We'll take him back, and ride him with a bit of cover. And I think, whether or not he runs out the 2,400, I know he did it in Australia. It's a little bit different here in Hong Kong, but he's in good form. He's in good form.
Okay, it's interesting. I thought actually, when I was looking at the map, Cass, I thought he might go forward Zabrowski, but you think you might be able to get more of a tune out of him, ridden a bit different?
Yeah, look, I'll just sit down and study the race and see what, on paper. I just thought there was two or three leaders, but once I sit down and study it, like tonight and tomorrow, we'll come up with a plan as to see where we can get into what positions for each individual horse.
Now, Cass, you're amongst friends. The rest of the race meeting, is there one in particular that you would steer? Forget Hutchi, you would maybe steer me, one of your nearest and dearest towards?
Let me see. Hang on. Where are we?
There's a debutante.
We haven't discussed Skyfield.
Yeah, we'll get to Skyfield. I'm just trying to cop a tip out wide. Spud out, will you?
I'd say Royal Bomb's extremely fit, really well, been racing extremely well. And a horse like Storm Legend, they're looking good.
I'll mark them down. Over to you, Shane.
Skyfield. That's all I want to know. What do you think, Cass? With the 133 pounds against Cordyceps 6 with only 113.
Very tough, Shane, as you well know, mate. Respect horses in a handicap system here, and him getting 20 off us is going to bring him right in this race. He's another horse that you don't know where his full true rating is. And of course, Hazy's horse getting weight off us this time gives him a chance as well. But my guy's in great nick. He's carried weight before, and I think he's there to fight with them.
Makes it tough under the handicap conditions, but Skyfield's been super consistent, and he's got the highest rating in the race, but he's got the weight, and it just makes it really hard. Richo, I think. I don't think he'll be far away, and he may well win if he gets the right sort of race shape. But it just under those handicap conditions is going to be tough. Cordyceps 6 is going to be extremely hard to beat.
Cass, also, just when you look forward into the future, is Hong Kong going to be your permanent home moving forward, or do you have the opportunity of set up satellite stables around the world? The world's changing a lot in racing at the moment, and we need to change with it.
This last few months have been a wake-up call, certainly for me and my family, and I really hope Hong Kong picks up over the next 12 months, because if it doesn't, I mean, it's been pretty brutal. But racing-wise, I still love Hong Kong. I still love the racing here. The stake money's good, all that. But at the end of the day, I've got a family with me, and we've all got to be happy, And I hope that they change their ways a little bit. If they, start to ease down on restrictions and we get back to some normalcy, well, then I'll be here for a while. I love Hong Kong. But if things just continue to be a little bit on the tough side, then we'll certainly be looking at some other options later on. But at this stage, I'm certainly committed to Hong Kong.
And how is it, Cass? I mean, is it looking like things are opening up? We've seen recently it seems to be playing out that way. I mean, it has been very tough on a lot of people. Obviously, there's some that are going to, a lot of people that have left Hong Kong. But from a future point of view, how's it looking?
Yeah, well, we got a new CEO coming in, so hopefully he'll change things a little bit. And we just got to hope that they run Hong Kong the way it needs to be run. I mean, it's such a great city, and it's lost a lot of its vibrancy over the last certainly 6 to 12 months. But the Hong Kong people are lovely people. They always believe and they always hope that things will pick up. And I'm certainly one of them. If things certainly get better here, it's the best place to train in the world.
Just one thing while we've got Cass on, had a couple of people. I said last week we'll have some questions forward, and one gentleman actually wrote in and wanted to ask Caspar a question in particular, and it was a question surrounding, I think, his success at Happy Valley. He's the winning most trainer at the Valley.
I know, a thousand winners, extraordinary. On the Flat 3 is the Twitter handle, and this is the question, Cass. What are the key qualities that distinguish horses that prefer Sha Tin to Happy Valley, and why have your training methods worked so well at Happy Valley?
Oh, it's a hard one. I've always loved that track, so I've just tried to make it my home, and take horses there that can be competitive. And surprisingly, over the years, we've had horses that are absolute beasts that are 1,200 plus, 1,250 that go over there and perform really well, which you wouldn't think they would handle it. But on the certain tracks, there's certain horses can excel. And I've been lucky enough to find that I like that track, and I want to try and give all my horses a chance to go there. So I probably run a lot more horses than other people there. That's probably the reason as well.
Yeah, Cass has never, I think that's a good point. He's often, even through his career, has been happy to take that young, really progressive horse, where some trainers are probably a little bit more conservative as well and sort of thinking, we'll wait for Sha Tin or whatever. But, I know one thing that you've always said as well, Cass, you like to take them over there. It's good for them to get out, like just to mentally sort of bring them on, if anything more. So maybe that little bit of a willingness to sort of go to the city track, give them that experience and toughen them up a bit.
Yeah, 100%, Clint. You're spot on there, bud.
And maybe, Shane, what about you from a riding point of view, the difference between the horse flesh at Sha Tin versus Happy Valley?
Happy Valley horses are normally a little bit weaker than the better class of Sha Tin. We all know that. But they adapt, and it's a tighter track. And, of course, it suits on-pace runners, Happy Valley. Mind you, Sha Tin suits on pace also. All tracks around the world suit on pace runners, but Happy Valley more so than anything else.
Cass, just your thoughts on the battle for both the Trainers' Premiership and the Jockeys' Premiership at the moment? It's heating up.
Yeah, a great battle. Obviously, I think Frankie Law's got a good shot this year. John Size is giving everything, and as is Frankie. I think it's a chance. I think Frankie gets his chance to win it. I will pick Frankie to beat John this season. And I'll pick Joe to beat Zach this season.
Okay, and Moreira's 115, Zach on 112. Did Zach make enough, Hutch, of Joe being away?
No, he didn't, no. And I think Joe's going to finish very strong too. So if you're putting a price up, I think Joe'd be a clear-cut favourite.
Okay. Hey, Cass, what's Hutch like as a brother-in-law?
Oh, mate. Where do you want me to start?
At the top.
No, I think, can you believe we've run out of time?
Oh!
We have run out of time. That's it for this segment.
He's the boss, Cass. Yeah, if he pulls the pin, we're out.
No, look, he's an absolute champion. What a lovely guy. Seriously, we've had so much fun, as I have with Shane, who's one of my best friends ever in my life. We've had so much fun for the last 30 plus years, and look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully, try to come down for Melbourne Cup this year.
Oh, sounds fantastic, Caspar. As always, mate. Absolute pleasure chatting to you. RS.
Little quick story with Cass and what type of person he's like. I left Hong Kong because of injuries in 2008. Had to go to Mauritius to get my body right because it was just gone, broken ribs, 2 years. And I rode really well there, won the premiership. And Cass said, I'm going to get you back here to win a derby. Anyway, Brett Preble rode a horse called Fair Trade, 1401. And he rang me and he said, you can ride this in the derby, come and ride it. And a lot of people were saying things. I go there. We worked out a plan how to win the derby. He had 3 or 4 runners in its race. Anyway, mine didn't win the race, but he won the race with Saturn. Super Saturn, was that its name?
Yeah.
Super Saturn. Douglas White rode it. And actually, Dougie got onto my back at the right time, and I took him into the race, which probably won in the race. But that night, I had to fly out in the morning. That night, late at night, Cass has sent me this text apologising that I didn't win the derby, and all he wanted for me was to win the derby.
Isn't that beautiful?
Thank you, brother.
That is fantastic.
And what did I text back? I said, it's not about me, Cass. It's your time.
Oh, bro, stop it now. Love you, man.
Oh, beautiful stuff. Cass, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Absolute pleasure, and good luck for the rest of the season. We're barracking for you.
Yeah, we should stay online after this, mate, so we can get some real stories going and have a real laugh.
The one and only Caspar Fownes. That was a lot of fun. Shane, it was a great story. You ended us with their fair trade. I think it was trained by Mick Kent here in Australia, went over to Hong Kong, and
he had a problem. He always had a problem. Cass would have been able to tell you, and he had it in the Derby, actually. And he drew the outside, and we wanted a fast run race early. And Cass had the leader in the race anyway, but they had to slow at about the 1,000 to 800 for me. And then it doesn't matter if I go 5, 6 wide and circle the field. I can get up and around and be 4 wide, running 4th or 5th, and done no work because the pace had slowed. And it was just absolutely perfect. But he hung, and he I don't think he hardly ran again after that Derby, did he? Clint?
I don't think so. Like you said, he had those issues. He had a lot of ability, but
a really good horse, but problems, so many problems. And he had it in the Derby. He didn't feel right. So when I circled them from back, Dougie was in front of me, and I went up and around him. Well, Dougie then tracked onto me on Super Saturn, and I took him into the race, and then he just went past, and he only won by about a head or a nose, but it was Caspar's first Derby, and it was great, and it was Douglas's first Derby, and I was so happy that I could be part of it. But Caspar honestly was so upset because he really wanted me to win the Derby. And as I said before, I said, Cass, I've had my time. It's your time. It's not about me, mate. Thank you for the opportunity.
And it was just as well stuff. Shane made that move when he did. And look, just listening to their interview and them talk, they have been, they hit it off straight away. Like they said, back in 91, they've been great mates ever since. And
Well, we've got some questions from our audience, and we continue on. Shane, I'll start with you. This is from Stephen Mooney, and thanks to all of our viewers and those that have corresponded with us. What's the most controversial protest that got upheld that shouldn't have got upheld, in your opinion, Shane?
Geez, I can't think. Clint might be better than me at this one.
The one that stands out to me would be the one in Perth, wouldn't it be? The Kiwi horse that was...
He's remarkable.
He's remarkable.
In a railway stakes, who...
They still talk about it now.
Every
time
race,
there's a bad decision.
Interfered with, I'm going to say, Lucky Grey off the top of my head, and interfered with at this 1,000-metre mark in a 1,600-metre race. It's different. As you can tell, I backed He's remarkable. I'm still trying to get over it.
Another controversial one for me was when Tavachi won here in Melbourne.
Yes, in the C.S. Hayes.
Palantino that won the
C.S. Hayes Stakes, the lead up to the Australian Guineas, and Tavachi got it, the protest over Palantino, and 2 weeks later, of course, Palantino won the Australian Guineas.
I couldn't see him.
What about the one years ago? I think it was Our Poetic Prince in the Caulfield Guineas. Was it Marwong? Can you remember that one or not?
1987, and Marwong interfered with, once again, at about 1,000 metres out. Our Poetic Prince shoots clear and wins the Caulfield Guineas, but throttles down, wins by a number of lengths, and Marwong jumps out of the ground in the last 200 metres to get a lot closer than what he really should have. And it was very controversial at the time.
That's one I don't think should have been overturned, if I remember correctly. That one, Palatino, I would have gone that way. The stewards went with that one, I think. I watched that and I remember, but a lot of people didn't. But I just always, for some reason, remember that one that you just mentioned then, Marwong.
Yeah, the one with Tavachi, the reason why I thought it was there was interference up ahead, and without going right into it, he had to evade sort of the interference ahead, I felt, Palantino, and he came out and he did obviously cause interference to Tavachi, but I think thereafter Tavachi was ahead of him. He came from behind him and beat him from memory, and they said that you sort of come out and interfered with the other horse, but he did, but it was as a consequence of all the interference up ahead. So, but it was an interesting one. I'd never seen. I didn't think it'd be upheld, but it was.
Jason Hughes has asked us, and this is for you, Hutch. Why was Flying Season declared a runner in the last on Sunday? From what I saw, he forced his gate open. It looked like the attendants still had hold of him. He jumped sideways by 3 barriers. Is that being offered a fair start?
The stewards have called it a fair start in Hong Kong. I'd say 100 times out of 100, they're going to call that incident a fair start. They can hold them. They've got to let them go in a reasonable amount of time. And I think he broke it a fraction early, but they feel he's afforded a fair start. It's one of those racing incidents, Shane, I suppose, that when that happens, it was like, did he gain an advantage? or a major disadvantage, and they felt neither. So I can understand that.
Well, the horse caused it himself, right? That's the thing. And it was a split second. It's a tough one. I can understand him being scratched also because he did bust the gates, but it was a split second. But the horse did that on its own accord. It wasn't as though the attendant in the gates is holding him and he rears up and it's the attendant's fault. It was actually the horse's fault. And that's why they went with that.
And a question to you, Shane, from Kaz Nottrup. Dear Shane, when did you switch from white gloves to black gloves and why?
I can't remember, and that's truthful. I don't. I never used to ride with gloves in Australia, but when I went to Hong Kong, you got to, because you can't hold on to the reins. What happens is they get so slippery because it's heat and the humidity, whereas in Australia they just don't. They never used to slip with me, but in there, so I had to wear gloves, and all jockeys wear gloves. In Hong Kong, and I used to either have white or black, it didn't matter, but I never used to wear gloves in Australia, never.
You got the black gloves on there when
that was Super Kid winning the champions and Shadow. That's a race obviously they were going forward this weekend, and you're smiling for the camera. You're pretty happy with yourself there, Shane.
Yeah, that horse was going from a mile to 2,400. And I think why I was smiling because my son and my wife were on the fence watching, and I'd got married that week, if I remember correctly. And they were over the fence because, as Clint can tell you, they come along the fence there where the jockeys live and the trainers live, and it's about 100 to 150 metres past the winning post. So you get the wives and the kids there because they're allowed to be there, and they're all waving. So that's why.
Oh, beautiful. So there you go, Kaz. That's the answer to that question. Keep those questions coming for our next season. But first, we're going to find some winners. Of course, racing on Sunday at Sha Tin for a Group 1 day. Champions and Chater Cup. We've spoken about it at great length with Caspar Fownes. Hutch, when you look at it, though, you've already said that Senor-Toba will be the favourite for you.
Yeah, I've got him at the moment. I don't think I'll shorten him in. If the rain does come, I'll shorten him in, though, because I think he's really well suited under those conditions. But I've got him 270. I think the Dangerous Panfield, he's a clear second elect for me at 450. And then I'm sort of going against Russian Emperor. I'm not convinced about him a mile and a half. He's a Group 1 horse. But I think the 2000 sees him out, and he has had a little issue or two, whilst even though he's had a trial leading in. But for me, it's predominantly a battle between Senor-Toba and Panfield. And Shane, this is Russian Emperor. Of course, Torben Diamond was in the race, but I thought Panfield, who had the best final 200 in this race, was an eye-catcher. And of course, he won this race last year.
He's been so disappointing this season, this horse, but his last run was so much better, as you just said, and you can see it here. I think he won this race last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
So he seems to peak now. So I haven't got him on top. I've got Senor-Toba on top from him. But he's definitely improved, 100%.
Panfield is like with Waikuka, and John Size said recently, he trains off at the end of the year. He doesn't know why, but the warm months he goes off the boil. Panfield's, I think, one of those horses is going to come right. But yeah, Senor-Toba, he's clearly the one to beat for me.
So what about the Sha Tin Vase? We touched on it briefly with Caspar in regards to Skyfield.
Yeah, really, really hard race, as we said. I'm going to mark Cordyceps 6 a favourite. I think I'm going to have him in that 3 to 350 range, but I haven't quite finishing it off. But he's super wealthy. He's got a great chance. I think those up sort of carrying a little bit more weight are going to struggle. Of course, Nervous Witness is really interesting. We spoke about Lyle Hewitts and how well he's going on leaders. Would have, I think Lyle can ride the minimum there. Would have been interesting if he had got on Nervous Witness. But Cordyceps 6, Shane, he's done very little wrong. He's a promising horse on the way up, and just in the conditions of the race, he's that young horse with a bit of weight relief. I thought he'd be pretty hard to beat.
I've got him on top. He runs great sectionals. He's just going to sit back. There's never much between these sprinters. We all know that. But this could be a horse that with 113 pounds could just run over top of him.
Yeah, we highlighted him, of course, one of our earlier shows as well. Richo, I think early in the season, we said that he's going to be, one of the promising stars coming through, and he's kept developing. Blake Shin's been a big part of it, but you got a good rider on board, and if Alexi rides him similarly to what he did Wellington, just park him, jump him out and have him that sort of 3-back one-off, he'll let go with the lightweight and be hard to beat.
Yeah, Blake rides Skyfield, Moreira on Hot King Prawn, and Zach on Super Wealthy. We move back a race to race number 8. Not the same class. This is a class 3.
Competitive race. This is a really interesting one because it appears that Zach Purton's opted to ride Golden Empire over the last start winner Oriental Smoke. And then, you've got the likes of Beauty Live, who brings in similar form lines to Golden Empire, amongst others in the race. But Tempest Express is down in grade. This will be a good betting race because there's a number of chances in the event. Now, this is Beauty Live. He got caught wide. Golden Empire should have won this race. He's in amongst them, and you'll see him get out late. Storm Legend's going okay. Beauty Live, it's an interesting matchup. There's not much speed in this race on the weekend. Shane, and I thought that you'll see Golden Empire just parked there. Beauty Live will be right there as well. And, we might have Pert Moreira sort of controlling the speed. But outside of that, Oriental Smoke might be getting a good run too. So it's a very competitive race. How did you see it?
I thought Circuit Stella should have won that race, actually. It got held up at the 250, had no luck. It's had no luck its last 3 starts. But this race, it's got a good gate 10, and it's going to get back and come down the outside if it keeps it out of trouble. But it's had bad runs in races the last 3. But I actually like Beauty Life because it's going to get a very soft lead. There doesn't seem to be a lot of pace in this race. And from gate 2, he looked gone in that race at the 600. He was gone turning for home. But if you actually watch the last 50 metres of that last race, he got going again and ran it right out strongly, and it wasn't too bad a run. He's going to dictate this race in front. And there's a lot of chances. There's a lot of horses racing well in this race. If I quickly, Circuit Stella's going to win soon. He's just a winner waiting to happen. You're right about Golden Empire. Storm Legend, Caspar mentioned him. You got Oriental Smoke, who won by 3 or 4 lengths last start. Gate 1, going to box seat. But you got to remember, he was on a wet track last time. And a lot of those horses that day, they haven't reproduced those runs. So whether he can, and he's going up a class, great race. I'm going to go Beauty Live with a soft lead. But if they're coming from back and down the outside, Circuit Stella is the one you want to be on.
Yeah, well, we were on him a couple of times. He bombed that start that day by 6 lengths. But these barrier manners are an issue, and I'm just
trying to get over that. Right?
I'm still getting over that one. But I think, like Caspar said, that they forecast a bit of rain on Sunday. I think Oriental Smoke's right in the game. But even if there isn't rain, I think we'll get a better price about him in some respects because Zach's got off him to ride Golden Empire, and Oriental Smoke might be worth sticking with.
Your betting strategies, hutchieshonkers.com, 15% profit on turnover. You're having a great season, mate. You've got to keep focused. Every time I give you a pep talk, you lift. You rise to the occasion. I'm going to ask you to dig deep and give us your best at the moment of what you've done.
Oh, look, the best on the races at this point in time, Senor Toba's going to be hard to beat in the QE2. He'll be hard to beat. But we'll reserve the others for the day. We've got to wait for the weather and a couple of other factors. But you're having a bet in the Group 1, he should be very hard to beat.
Hutchieshonkers.com. That will arrive in your inbox at around midday Australian time, or wherever you're joining us. You do the analysis as to what time. The link will be there, and jump on the site. RS, anything jump off the page for you? I love your little thought bubbles that you bring up, and they often win. You got a thought bubble?
Well, I've got to confess, there's sales on up here. Weanling and Broodmare sales, and everyone is up here. And unfortunately, last night I had to go out for dinner, and so I'm behind the 8 ball big time.
Okay.
But I think that Senor Topa wins for sure. And I think that looking at this, Cordy set 6 wins.
There's an interesting new one. I'll throw the viewers in another one. There's an interesting newcomer that's having its first start for Chris So actually on the weekend. But it's called Super Sunny Sing in race 3. It's been really impressive in trials. It's 1,000 metres. The wide barrier is perfect. I think it's a nice ride for Joe. It'll be well supported in the market and run very well.
Right. So that is race 3, number 8, Super Sunny Singh on Hong Kong debut.
Yeah, Kenny Callender didn't name it. Clearly.
No, that's that's exactly right. You're not buying horses or anything at the broodmare and weanling sales, Shane, or you're just more entertaining your mates?
No. I got a phone call yesterday or last week, and just had to go for dinner with some people. Saw a lot of people out. Saw Brett Thompson. He was out.
The Babe,
an ex-Hong Kong jockey, of course. He rode there for many years, and I'm sure you run into him in Melbourne, Clint.
Yeah, I do.
We see him a lot. The Babe. He's a champ. He's one of the all-time great New Zealand jockeys there with McDonald, Cassidy, Thompson, and some other bloke.
Yeah. Well, I don't care where you put me. I couldn't care. I don't care if you call me a bloody Indian, a Mauritian, or whatever. It's never worried me, mate. It's never worried me.
We're proud to say you're part of our family, mate. We love you. What a great
you
season.
read my top 10 this morning?
What's that?
My top 10.
Oh, what did you do?
In the paper, I did a story on the top 10 jockeys I've ridden against.
Oh.
RaceNet.
Okay.
It's on RaceNet.
Okay, there you go. There's a little push. You better go and jump on that and find out. Don't tell us anything, but be very surprised if there's some... surely Beedman's up high, isn't he? And Dittman?
Beedman's not in the top 10.
No? Very good.
No. What you got? Ryan Moore, you got Lester Piggott, you got Gary Stevens, you got Jerry Bailey, Christoph Suleiman's riding. You got all these superstars. So it's very hard, and I've had to leave some out who are superstars. So don't get me wrong. They're great jockeys, and I respect them, and they've got unbelievable records. But when you're told to name 10 jockeys that you've ridden against in the world, it's not that easy, because you're going, this jockey's good, this one's good, he can do this, and you've got to cut it back a bit.
Okay, yeah, especially with the amount of countries that you've ridden in. Shane, what a great season, mate. We look forward to your company next season.
Thank you. And you won't see me, Richo, but I'm sure I'll see you in the next 2 days on TV. Your head pops up all the time. I see it. So it'll be good to watch you.
Love you, brother. Good on you, Hutch. Congratulations on a great season, mate. And everyone, hutchyshonkers.com. Jump on the site and let's have a great weekend.
Yep, have a good weekend, and all the best of very luck.